Hey everyone, I'm Mike. I am the director of competitive esports here at IGC. I oversee all of our competitive properties, and today I'm joined by the new League of Legends coach you may have heard from many rumors floating about the internet. It is André Guilhoto from Astralis. So happy to bring him on and talk to you guys a little bit about how we got to this point and what we can be looking forward to as Immortals League of Legends going forward.
Anyway, hey, I'm Andre. I'm gonna be the new head coach for Immortals. I come from a traditional sports background. Started as a basketball coach, and then just in the league world, just moved my way up. Starting in the Portuguese league, then into the Spanish league, winning every tournament in Spain and Challenger Series. And once qualified to LCS, I had 1 year at Schalke where I made one finals and I won one award of coach of the split. And then moving into Origin, which is now called Astralis. I also made one finals and won one coach of the split. I've been there 2 years, and then I've decided that it was time for me to look for a change and move into Immortals for 2021 forward.
Yeah, so just want to talk just a little bit about kind of how we got to this point, Andre. So, from my side of things, it definitely seemed like, I think the vision for what we were trying to accomplish, building a new project from the ground up, looking at developing talents, looking at, trying to fix North America for what it's worth. I think that was pretty much how we kind of aligned on that stuff. And I think, that's what kind of started the conversation. And, it kept going. It was like a months long process. So, how is it on your side? Because I know we were talking for a few months trying to line everything up.
Yeah, I mean it was quite similar after also not a successful summer split that I had at Origin. Um, it it kind of made me realize really well what I was looking for in the next project, because I also had clear that I didn't really, even though I had another year of contract, I didn't really wanted to stay at the organization. So it felt really refreshing when I thought that the things that I was looking for and the structure that, or the project that I was looking at, um, felt at the start when I first thought about it, it felt like a bit unobtainable, or something that it was really hard to get currently in the scene, where it's a lot about making sure that I have, let's say, my space to build up from the ground up and start things, and just focusing a lot on culture and developing talent, making sure that we also have a strong system in academy, and that felt like really ambitious, because obviously when the franchise period is already over, there's not a lot of new orgs coming in, so there's not a lot of rebuild per se. Um, so I felt that Immortals was the only team that was offering me that, and that's why the visions felt so aligned. Obviously, I was like, as probably you guys were as well, Mike. I was also talking with other teams, and I did had the chance to stay in Europe and compete for European championships, but ultimately, I felt that through the bad experience of last summer split, I had to stay truthful to what I
Mhm.
believe the best project and the best fit for me would be, and what would ultimately make me the happiest on executing my work. And yeah, that was Immortals, and that was the main reason why I joined.
Mm. Yeah, and I think overall from both of us, like culture is such a big part of what we both want to establish, right? I think, both from where we're both coming from, we recognize like what a lack of culture or like a poor culture will do to a team environment, and being able to, start afresh, which is a really rare opportunity, like you said, is something that um, you know, is critical to what we want to accomplish, which is actually kind of changing the narrative in the scene and actually being able to work with talent to develop them and to empower your coaching staff to grow and to really make positive change in the broader community. So I think for us, like, let's talk a little bit just about your approach with the team on a day-to-day basis. Obviously, we haven't fleshed out our full roster, but what's the approach you're expecting to take with the players when you're actually here? Like, what are you expecting to instill in them once we actually have the full roster together, and including academy? How are we going to utilize them going forward?
Yeah, so for me, the at the start, the main thing will be stabilizing or establishing a good competitive culture across all teams. I want to make sure that academy is something that is not overlooked or underused. I do want to use academy to not only develop future prospects that can after just jump effectively into the main team, but also use those academy players to improve the effectiveness of our practice and also the quality of our players. I think that there's a lot of ways that can be done. But overall, the mentality and approach will be a lot focused on developing the pieces that we have, making sure that we establish a good competitive culture that more that we stop treating or that we don't treat this purely as being just a job where players come, play their scrims, and then just go back home, don't even talk to everyone. We want to approach to a culture where we actually care about each other and we have some kind of family sense in a way. And that's something that for me, and I've been on very successful teams and some unsuccessful teams, and that was actually one of the main takeaways was how the team's relationships were and how much the org was actually contributing or not to establish a good culture around the players. So that's I want to bring that experience and use a lot on my mentality and approach. And overall, just a general feeling that, especially when it comes to academy, that our players are treated with the respect that they deserve, and that we also make sure that there is a competitive and a competent and competitive coaching staff around them. And myself, as the head coach of LCS, I'll be a lot of times involved in what is their approach to the game and be in contact with their practice without obviously undermining the role of the academy coach. So overall, it's just even though we are not saying that we want to create a 10-man roster inside of the game, we do want to create a 10-man roster outside of the game and make sure that everyone is involved with everyone. And when it comes to our team culture, just having a close team more than anything, that and the whole environment be around freedom to progress and low fear of let's say the actual results, if we feel like the progress and the culture that we are establishing is going into the right direction.
Yeah, and it's definitely something that we've kind of talked about too, which is like what are the actual competitive expectations, right? Because we sit and obviously as you're going into a rebuilding phase, like that obviously raises some concerns with people where it's okay, well, what are you expecting to get out? Are you going to make a playoffs? Obviously there's teams that make marquee moves. Like you've seen all the rumors going around. Obviously, I think there's teams that are clearly indicating that they want to continue to be as competitive as they have been. As for us, we're on the other side of the spectrum where we're actively rebuilding and looking for that talent. We want to build up our academy. We want to make sure that there is a pipeline. So when we look at what that means for competition, it's obviously we're going to do our best to be winning every game that we can possibly win, but for us, prioritizing that development of the players, prioritizing creating that culture first has got to be our priority. We shouldn't sacrifice short-term wins to, at the expense of anything like long-term. Like, sure, winning, if you win in spring, that's great, and it looks great for like the younger players that come in. But at the same time, if you then have too many team issues and you can't solve them at a cultural and a fundamental level, then if it's a burning ship by the time you get to summer, then obviously it doesn't do us any good for our platform. So for us, like competitively, it's how are we thinking about this, not just this year, but also going into next year and beyond that? Like, how are we using our academy? How are we making everybody feel like they're part of the same team? What's the pathway for these players to actually move up into LCS with Immortals so that they can prove that not only are they great competitors, but they can also compete on the world stage as well in the future?
And I think competitive expectations is just like it's kind of a consequence of what we are building more than setting up expectations. I know that if we do and if we execute properly on what we are planning to do, then those results will come. So it's not it's not like we have to reach X or it fails. We don't have that mindset. It's more of if we do what we are proposing ourselves to do, God knows where we can reach, and that's more of the competitive expectations that we have right now. From the way that I'm seeing things form, I actually think that we'll be someone that right off on spring will surprise a lot of people, but it's more we want to consider it more as a consequence of the good work that we are doing, more than just trying to get wins due to just putting band-aids everywhere and making sure that the boat is not going down, because ultimately that will just be short term and will actually will actually not even contribute to fixing big issues that not only the teams have but also the region has.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the worst thing I think is if we undertake this type of project and we say we want to do it, it starts off promising in spring, and then we kind of forget why we're in the project in the first place to actually change things longer term. And then, we get to summer and then we just fall into the same trap. And then by next year, like, we're just another one of those teams that just does the same thing. And, I think that's the worst outcome for us. I'd love to be able to, showcase, like I said, that these players can actually move up into LCS. They can be competitive. We have the strong coaching structure here that I think will, really enable all these players to be successful beyond what they previously had experienced, especially in, the academy systems, or from coming in from minor regions. So, that's kind of another thing is like maybe we talk just a little bit about, the coaching staff that we have right now and just how you kind of see them being able to help facilitate this vision that we have going forward.
So for now, I'm counting with Malik Libs as my assistant coach. Think that he was someone that knows the scene well, knows the organization well, and he is also a big advocate of how important academy and developing talent is to the scene and to a team. He also, from the few talks that I had with him about the game, he seemed competent and someone that will be able to complement a lot of the flaws that I have. And for academy team, we have Jensen. Jensen is someone with a lot of international experience as well. Someone with good connections to the eastern side and their philosophy and their way of doing things. Someone that is known for being really good at breaking down simple fundamentals, both laning and macro-wise, and that's something that we feel that academy teams are lacking. And I think that he's actually one of the best people to lead an academy system or an academy program.
Jensen
out there.
Jensen, the 4.2 rumored $1 million mid laner for Team Liquid is now our academy. Yeah, our academy coach.
Yeah, he just shifted. I mean, but I'm really happy with the staff that we have so far. We are also aware that staff is more than coaches, and we are looking into other roles as well to make sure that we surround our players both in LCS and in academy with the best available structure possible, so that they can thrive in the environment that we want to create for them. And in this case, we are talking about a more psychologist way to help players. We are talking about when obviously this whole pandemic stops. People that can help the players to live a healthier lifestyle that then will just help on their performance as well. This is something that we are obviously planning on doing in the future, and it's part of the culture that we want to build. As we said already many times, just focusing around the improvement and the high performance of the individual, instead of just bringing someone and then just he's just with the
Saying
same
go
level
play, yeah, go
that
play
he
the game.
arrived and that he left. And that's
Right.
honestly something that we fundamentally in our project want to avoid. Players that we feel that when they reach and when they leave will be the exact same player sometimes, and it happened already even worse. And the other thing obviously that we want to avoid is to reach to a situation where academy is just something that is mandatory by Riot and not something that is seen as the true potential that it has, not only to develop talent but to also help practice with the main team. We want to differentiate ourselves from a couple of American teams in that sense. So yeah, I think that the staff that we have right now is going for sure in that right direction.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, definitely, like we said, we want to make sure that the approach and structure, at least the way when I like to look at staffs, is very top down, able to enable those coaches to do their jobs, and we want to be able to surround the players with not only the best strategic in-game minds, but also give them a robust experience outside of the game as well, where they feel like when a player gets here, the worst thing you can have for them is to leave with less than or the same amount that they came in with, right? Like you should always come somewhere and it should be focused on a growth mindset. I think that's a big thing for us is like with our culture, it's always going to be focused on growth and development as we kind of go forward. And it should be no matter what, if if your player here for just a year, for a couple of splits, or even if you're here for a longer term and you've been through the academy program that we want to build out into the LCS team over time, like you should always feel like you have an opportunity to grow and to get that ability to prove yourself on the LCS stage. I mean, that's fundamentally what we want to build and really change the perception that like academy is just like a mandate. It's actually something that should
Yeah.
be utilized and developed. And I think we have, like you said, I think we do have the right staff coming into it this year that will be able to teach them individually what needs to happen as a fundamental to player development, but also what we can provide them as an organization to actually grow them as people around that as well.
Ultimately, I want, like, to put it on a very simplistic
Mm,
terms, I want the academy team to fill the LCS teams as much as the LCS teams, and I want the LCS team to follow and support the academy players on
mhm.
their numerous games that they will be playing.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
if they, like, to put it on a very very simplistic way, if I achieve these two actions without me mandating that it has to be done, then I know that, like, it's kind of a check mark that the project is going in the right direction. And
Hmm.
it might seem foolish, but like when you have your own initiative to support your peers of the organization next to you, then you know you're going in the right direction.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. And that's something that's going to take time. I think a
Yeah.
lot of players that we get are probably the ones that when we talk to players, obviously right now, I think some of them are like, wait, you guys actually want to do this as a thing. Like, you're not just saying, like, yeah, we want you as a player on our team. Where's my contract? It's, oh, like, how are you guys going to, how we're going to work with these players? How are we going to, try to change the system? And I think it's been a pretty positive result from like who we've talked to so far. Obviously we can't get into names right now, but I think pretty much everybody that we've spoken to thus far has been pretty aligned with like what we want to accomplish, and they understand that it's going to take a lot of effort on not only our part but on their part as well to kind of work through this, because it is going to be a challenge. This isn't just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. It's like a very tempered, a very measured approach, and the players that we're targeting have a very specific mindset and ability that we want to grow and foster while they're here.
Yeah, and I think that part of the reason why we're also sharing all of this is because we also want the public and
Hmm.
and mainly like everyone that follow us to hold us accountable to this, right?
Hmm.
Because yes, players are really receptive to this, but it's also not something that the players are listening to the first time.
Right.
And then it ended up not happening, right? And we don't want to follow, as you said, in that trap. We want to make sure that we stay truthful to what we believe in, that we are building, and that's why we are sharing our vision
Hmm.
so early. Because it actually, I mean, it obviously happened, and people know about this a couple of times in NA, where this vision or something similar is
Hmm.
being sold, and then they just back down, and after all,
Yeah.
yikes, and it was just never mind. And we want to make sure that we don't fall in that trap. So sharing that vision is also to make sure that we have something that will put our feet into the ground, into what is actually our approach, and that we have it public so that people can actually hold us accountable for this.
Yeah, and I think that's something with the old, kind of when Immortals had transitioned out of the LCS, when we didn't get into franchising the first time. One of the big hallmarks for the organization was to be transparent. There was a lot of, Noah
Yeah.
would kind of come up front and say like, "Hey, this is what we're doing. This is what's going on behind the scenes." And I think that there was a miss from our organization coming back into the LCS. New ownership essentially, or new management essentially. Long windy road to get back here. Um, it's something we want to go back to because I think that's a really core part of our community is being open, being transparent, engaging with our fans, saying, "Hey, this is what's happening." Like, it might not be the best news. It might be something that's like, "Wait, you're doing this? Why is this happening?" But like across all of the things that we've done, we want to make sure that we position ourselves as like, we're fan first. We're making sure that you guys understand as a community what we're doing, why we're doing it, and like we should be held accountable. If we fail at that, like we need to be able to take that. But
Yeah.
obviously, if you're successful with it and you're being open and honest with how you're doing it, I think a lot of people don't give that insight into what they're doing, and it's like, okay, well the team wins, and it's like everyone's excited and they want to be on for the wins, and or your team loses and everyone's like, well, why did we lose? Like all these things went wrong. And it's like by opening up to that and saying, here's the process. Like we don't need you to fall in love with the wins and losses. Like obviously the wins are great and the losses suck. But I think when you look at something as a process over time, like you can be a fan of that. And that experience is, I think, longer and more rewarding than just kind of being on the roller
Yeah.
coaster for winning and losing. So